It's an absolute honour to have you here for us tonight, celebrating independent filmmaking. Can you talk a little bit about what, for you, independent cinema gives both storytellers and an audience they perhaps don't get from other forms of cinema?
I suppose it depends on your definition, doesn't it? I mean, to me, it's the world cinema. Hollywood is becoming ever bigger and more bloated and more expensive and less personal and dumber. So to sort of plant a flag here for clever, smaller films, but which nevertheless have an extraordinary ambition, I think is vitally important. So it's a lovely, obviously very glamorous night, but it's also it's important that we're making a statement about what British film is, and it's an incredibly healthy state that it's in. I was just saying earlier about, we've all lived through those false dawns where a film like Slumdog or Chariots of Fire, briefly everyone gets very excited and then it all dies away again. But I think the last few years we've really started to find our feet again as an actual British film industry. There's so much stuff nominated tonight which is absolutely world class and world beating.
Do you think that the success of our small screen exports has been a big part in fueling that renewed interest and enthusiasm for our performing arts?
Well, it's quite possible. I mean, it seems to me that the bigger and dumber that movies get, the more television actually starts to thrive, and really the moment high-end television is where it's at in terms of big stuff, people committing to massive box sets of epic series in a way they just wouldn't have done a few years ago. So in a way I think British independent film reflects much more of that sort of bespoke mentalities. That people want clever stuff, they want ideas, they want great performance pieces, but they also just want it to feel like it's got proper heart and proper integrity.
Fans were so delighted for the return of the League. Can you talk a little bit about what it means for you to have that portion of your storytelling life continue, to be able to work again with these wonderful people, with Steve and the rest of the gang?
Well, it's been lovely. I mean, the main thing to stress, as I've said in every interview, is we did it because we want to, not because we have to, and that makes a huge difference. There's no sense of being a chore. We just thought it would be fun. We've been talking about doing something for a long time, and we realised that if we didn't actually map out the time, we'd never do it. So we just did. And it was actually a very short shoot, pretty intense, but fun. We just had a really good laugh, and I think that's the key to the whole thing. And I'm very proud of the episodes. I've already joked that we only did it to stop people saying, will you ever do it anymore? And now, of course, all people are saying is, are you going to do it anymore? We've left Sherlock in a place where we could totally leave it, or we could equally come back. We have no immediate plans. Stephen and I are doing Dracula next. So it certainly won't be for a while. I mean, it's odd to think there might never be any more, but equally it might be, best to leave it. The Fawlty Towers model always looms large. The only thing that slightly annoys me is if we'd done one more, we'd have done just as many films as Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, and there would have been something very satisfying about that. But never say never.
On the subject of Dracula, again, we've seen so many different iterations of that iconic story. What is it that most excited you about getting your chance to explore that character and that world?
It's early days. I mean, we've got a good idea for it, I think, and we haven't in any way settled on exactly how we're doing it, but it's just, the thing is, like Conan Doyle, a lot of people think they know it or think they've read it and they haven't. And Bram Stoker's Dracula is such a brilliant book. And when you actually read it, it's such a page turner. It's a very modern novel, really exciting, brilliant stuff. So I think it was, in a way, as with Doyle, it's sort of like going back to the original and finding everything that still works and sort of representing it, I suppose.
Why do you think it is so special and important to celebrate independent storytelling in particular?
Well, independent films are very unusual, and they tell stories of characters from very diverse backgrounds, and people you don't often see represented in commercial entertainment very often. I think independent film is very educational as well as compelling, and also there's few people who create independent films, so it's not managed by a studio of 20 people all crowding in, and it's and because of that, I think an idea will start from an inspiration. It'll be a seed of an idea that will start from a director, and it will grow and be supported if you have great producers. And then so I think the independent film also has very unique personality, and that's why the really successful ones are just such cultural phenomenons, and also they don't have the budget, so that's predominantly why it's so important to publicize them, because they don't have the budgets to get commercially seen, and sadly some excellent films don't get seen as much. So the most interesting reason for me to play the role is because I'd never read a female protagonist who was written in the way that she was. She's so acerbic, and she uses her humor as a weapon to deflect, and she's not your traditional female star, and she's also incredibly relatable. I've had so many people, men and women of different ages, say how much they related to it, and if they weren't there in their lives themselves, they had a couple who said that it reminded them a lot of their grandchildren, and so yeah, it's very rewarding to play a role like that really resonates with people, and there's a connection with the audience and people relate to that. I think that's very important. That's why I like independent film, because they're always very unique, and Daphne is very unique. So,
looking to the future, what should we be excited about in 2018? What have you got coming up? I think you've got a few other things in the fire.
I have a really interesting project in the pipeline, but I can't talk about it right now.
Film or TV? Because you've been excelling at both lately.
It's a film, and it's fantastically written, and it's very interesting. I think it would do very well. But I'm finishing a television series right now, so back to filming that until Christmas, and then
I'm Lily Newmark, and I'm up for the Most Promising Newcomer Award.
What does it mean for you to be part of this beautiful celebration of independent cinema tonight?
It's an absolute honour. I cannot believe that I'm here, and I'm so excited to see what happens.
Can you talk a little bit about the project and what it was that initially spoke to you the most about it?
So the film is called Pincushion, and it's a film about mental health and about being an outcast of society. It's about bullying, and it's mixed with fantasy and hyper-realism. And it's a female-centric film, so it explores what it is to be a female in society, and yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how proud you are to see the awards flourishing once again this year in 2018?
20 years ago we had 1/10 the number of people. There was no snow. And here we are 20 years later, big room, lots and lots of people, and lots of press. Thanks so much for coming. And it looks like finally, after 20 years, the fact that your film might have that logo on it, winner or nominated, might mean that more people actually see it, which is the whole reason we set it up 20 years ago.
Well, it's quite an honor. We're one of 5 international films nominated, so just to be amongst the crowd of these incredible films, in this crowd of incredible films, it's quite an honor. And also, it means a lot to me because I really don't think that my film would exist without British cinema. It's very, very influenced by British social realism, so it means everything in the world for me to be here, yeah.
Talk a little bit about the reaction the film has had, because it seems, despite its very specific cultural setting, to have translated very globally.
Yeah, it's been a really nice, warm reception from around the world, and here in the UK, Altitude put our film out here, and the critical response has been wonderful, and I think it's because it actually speaks to just the universality of childhood. That's the thing. Everyone has had a childhood, so I think that that's what people are seeing, and I think it's even though it's specifically dealing with an issue that's timely and important in the United States right now, that of the hidden homeless, it is also bringing audiences back to the summers of their youth, and I think that is how it's connecting with audiences.
Of course, you're armed with an astonishing cast. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of working both with some wonderful newcomers and an established icon in Willem?
Sure. Willem was incredible to work with, and a very patient and kind gentleman, because I was surrounding him with a bunch of first-timers and 6-year-olds. And but it was just a great family. It was just a really wonderful, casual family environment. And I think everybody was able to, no matter what their level of experience was while we were shooting, we were all on the same level anyway. And just artists trying to make make something special. And so no egos, no intimidation, no embarrassment. Everybody was just there to do something, and it was a great experience for all. Yeah.
And looking forward to 2018 and beyond, do you have other great experiences that you're preparing to share with us?
It might be a little bit more than 2018, a little bit further down the line. Still trying to figure that out, and after all of this, hopefully some inspiration kicks in the beginning of next year. So.
What do you think independent cinema offers both creatives and an audience they perhaps don't get from other forms of cinema?
Gosh, that's quite a hard question. I would say that in independent cinema you get a very strong vision from the director and the writer. And sometimes that cannot be like a studio film. So you get often you get a very personal film. I mean, for me, the starting point was the landscape, was that Pennine landscape. It's where I grew up. It's where my dad is still a farmer. It's where I live. And I just wanted to look at that world through my eyes. I think I hope it's a really emotional, heartfelt relationship at the center of the film. And I think that Alec and Josh, the other actor in the film, deliver such incredible performances that it's very easy to find resonance in it as an audience member. I never saw it as an LGBTQ film or as a story. I saw it as a boy who couldn't open up enough to love and be loved. And the hardest thing in the world that I've ever experienced is falling in love. And I think lots of us can associate with that. So it wasn't a story that I think was felt that it was categorized within a niche of an LGBT story. I felt it was more universal than that.
Talk to us a little bit about working not just with an amazing co-star, but with an amazing character in the landscape that this film inhabits.
Well, it's been really incredible, and the landscape had a really big part in creating the characters and the story because it was very present. And for the prep period that we had before the filming, we spent a lot of time working on the farm, so of course that affected us as people and helped us to create the characters and to be more organic and more truthful to the story. And of course, meeting these two lads, and it's been really incredible working with them.
Ian Hart, I'm here with a film called God's Own Country.
And it's amazing to have you here. Why do you think this film has connected so much with critics and audiences alike?
I think a simple tale told honestly will always work. And that's what this is, you know what I mean? People who can read into it whatever they feel to, it's a simple love story. And that's tale as old as time, you know what I mean? Everyone can connect with a simple love story.
I think
we're here tonight celebrating independent storytelling. What do you think that gives both storytellers and an audience they perhaps don't get from other forms of cinema?
I think because it's so hard to get a film made, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you've got, then you tend to have a unique voice to have the strength of personality to force that process over the line over 2 years for the director and the writer to see that through. Almost that struggle, it's almost like I'm being kind of productive saying we don't need more money in British film, we do. But part of that what ends up on the screen is that struggle. Part of that the effort that required to make that, to have that singularity of thought, it makes each piece unique. And that's a huge benefit to the audience.
What does it mean for you to not only be part of this beautiful celebration of independent cinema, but particularly with this film?
Wow, yeah, with this film, it means everything. You was at the premiere, it's been a long journey. 1 minute you're sitting there, 7 years ago I think, I started writing it, and I sat there with a blank page thinking, where do I go? What do I do? How do you start? And you start typing one word and you put one foot in front of the other. And before you know it, you're here with your heroes. Paul Weller's here tonight. Barry McGuigan's here tonight. Michael Smiley, who's my dear friend. Vicky McClure, my best mate, she's here supporting us. She's on our table. We're having a great time. But just for the film to be nominated, and it's a big thing, like the cast and crew on this put everything into it. I think they do on every film. You can't make a film easily, but there was something about this film, there was some sort of magic happened, I think, on set. I don't know what it was, but there was a lot of providence kicked in. And it's just nice to see it recognised, because they're not always, you know. I've done films before that I've really believed in and they're not recognised, and I've done other films that weren't so good and they get lots of applause. So it's just lovely for this particular film. I believe in this film, you know, I believe in it. It's nice to see it being recognised for all the cast and crew and the work they put in.
After your celebration tonight, what are you moving on to in 2018 and beyond?
We've got, there's a new TV show going to be coming out. It's called Troy, Fall of a City, all about the Trojan War. It's like a big 8-part series for BBC, Netflix. And I'm playing Agamemnon in that, the king, yeah. And so that starts, I think it starts in January, something like February 2018, yeah. So that's next up, yeah.
What makes Armando such a genius, and what excited you the most about Death of Stalin?
That's a really good question, because I do think he's honestly a genius. I mean, I've worked with him for now about 15, 16 years, and the short side of a genius is he just makes his instinctive calls. Occasionally you think, no, he's gone the wrong way, he's made the wrong choice, he's done the wrong cut. So, and then you look at it 2 years later, he's done the right thing. He always does the right thing. He's an absolute genius. He is a stone cold genius. Very clever. And I think only he could have constellated that cast of people. Only he could have got, you know, Steve Buscemi and Paul Whitehouse in the same film. And I think that's a testament to his standing in the industry. People keep saying this, that the Death of Stalin is particularly relevant. I'm not so sure. I mean, I was reading something the other day from a far left website that seemed to suggest that the whole thing had been brilliantly timed with the establishment to do something or other, deconstruct socialism or something. I mean, if it feels relevant, it's because it's timeless, it seems to me. It could be as relevant next year as this. I think people are saying it's relevant because of who's in the White House. This narcissistic maniac who wants complete control of everything, including the press and the destruction of democracy. So I think obviously people are saying it's timely. So yeah. When you see a really good, cracking British independent film, you know you've seen one, don't you? It's impossible to pin down the set of criteria that make up that definition of a movie. But you know one when you see one. There's some great ones represented here tonight, and it's I'm proud to be here, genuinely.
First of all, I need to thank people like Donald Trump for their amazing marketing campaign so I think that has helped, that it's touched a sort of nerve, shows how sort of democracy is very fragile. And yeah, it's been astonishing. I almost think maybe we're being pranked and actually no one likes the film, but it's a big, any minute now it's going to be revealed, it's gone so well. But it does seem to have really, really caught the imagination. And I think it's thanks to what's going on politically in the world, it's suddenly become topical and people like a laugh.
Obviously we're here tonight celebrating independent storytelling. What do you think that word independent gives both storytellers and an audience they perhaps don't get from other forms of cinema?
Yeah, independent film, it's a tricky term, isn't it, independent, because it could mean very arty to just stories done for a more limited budget. So in a way, I suppose it means a slightly more limited budget. But if you look at our film, it's an out-and-out big comedy with big laughs, and could easily be a sort of mainstream film. But I suppose there's that authenticity, that sense of authenticity that you get with independent filmmaking, where you're more likely to get your filmmakers making something that's closer to what they wanted to make.
And why do you think, out of all the great genres that we give the world, satire seems to be one of our finest British exports?
Have a lovely evening. Yes, we do seem to be very good at satire. I don't know whether it's because we've got that slight outsider thing where we're just sort of slightly detached, and that allows you to satirize. But I mean, I think every country is fantastic at satire, really. The Russians, obviously this is a movie about the Soviet Union, the Russians have an amazing satirical history, America's amazing satirical history. I guess we're just lucky that we have ourselves, you know, people like Armando, who are amazing, angry satirists.
What do you have coming up in 2018 and beyond? What should we be looking forward to at the moment?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Death of Stalin goes. I'm actually I have a social media company, so I'm doing a lot of social media, and a lot of stuff on social media. That's quite exciting. And I'm writing another film or two, and yeah, something about Brexit. Some biting, devastating satire, which no doubt will end Brexit. That's my next project.
I think it's just wonderful that it's honouring these very unique films this year, and I know Rangano is really proud to be one of the people in the lineup. Unfortunately, she's at Heathrow right now, grounded on a plane, so we're hoping that she'll be able to make it in the next couple hours if she can get off.
You talk about why this is such a very special story and why you think audiences and critics alike have connected so much with this woman's journey.
I think it's a very unique piece from a place of the world no one's heard about, and yet it's so timely, especially with what's happened this year in terms of Me Too and sensitivity towards women. This film is really all about that. So I think that's why, although it's so unique and so foreign, it's really connected with people. And it's a very funny, honest piece, and essentially that's what people are looking for, something that's truthful.
For a story that is so female-centric, how important, how vital do you think it was to have a strong feminine presence behind the camera for the project?
Essential. I mean, that's really what Rangano's triumph has been. She brings a real personal insight to the project. And the reason why she made this film is because she resonated with it as a woman. It would mean the world to me, and I'm sure it would mean the world to Rangano, just to be appreciated for this is the first film of its kind from Zambia of this caliber. To have it be celebrated here is such a triumph for our country and for all of us as artists.
What does it mean for you to be part of this celebration of independent storytelling?
Everything. It just, it's always good to start on a round number. What is it, 20th? Is it 20th or 25th? Anniversary. I think it's the 20th anniversary. It's a nice round number. So for me, it's great because you know what? It goes to show that all the hard work is paid off. You know, celebrating what diversity is and pushing that to the forefront is what it's all about for me.
What do you think it is that independent cinema gives both storytellers and an audience they perhaps don't get from other forms of cinema?
Risk, truth, without any caveats. It's just raw, and it thinks outside the box. What I've got is reflected on my talents. So I represent John Boyega, who's just done The Last Jedi, and he's gone on to do Pacific Rim, which I produced with him, which is a great thing. We've got Letitia Wright, who's going to be in a Marvel's Black Panther. That's going to be interesting. So my celebration is a celebration of the people that I represent and also the wider community.
Why is it so important and special to celebrate particularly independent storytelling?
Well, because then you, I suppose, allow the filmmakers to keep their original voice. I mean, I think that's, if we can find independence in that way, that should be totally supported, that it's not going to be compromised, it's not done for any other reason than that the person has something to say, has an idea they want to get across or a story to tell.
You have a fantastic cast helping you tell that story. Can you talk particularly about Florence and what makes her such a very special presence in front of the camera?
Well, there's always a sort of unexplainable quality to people like Florence, but she's also deeply charismatic, super intelligent, has a very, very good instinct. She works very, very hard. She's a joy to work with. She's very open and available as an actor, and she's prepared to take risks. I think these are all qualities which we find the very best actors.
Talk a little bit about, I guess my final question, just what it was for you in this story that you most wanted to communicate to an audience, you most wanted people to take away from the film.
That, in a way, they would be surprised somehow, that they would be challenged, that they would perhaps see something they hadn't seen before, or if they had an expectation, it would be challenged. So.
Hello, my name's Naomi Aki.
It's fantastic to have you here tonight. We're celebrating independent storytelling. Can you talk about what makes Lady Macbeth such a fantastic example of that?
Tiny budget, for one. New voices, for two. I think there's something special about taking a risk when you don't have a lot of money to go, actually, you know what? There is no pressure here to reach someone's expectations. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to completely subvert them. And I think that's what Lady Macbeth did so well. And for it to be celebrated now is just a bonus. I think the best thing is when you just make it, you know, and that's partly why independent films are so cool, because you make it, and you know what, if people see it, then great, but if they don't, you still made something that speaks from the heart.
What are you moving on to next? What can we look forward to in 2018 and beyond?
Oh, exciting things. I did a film with Idris Elba, which is coming out. I'm currently filming something for ITV, and then after that I've got a few more projects in the pipeline, but not allowed to say anything.
Obviously, Idris is one of our national treasures. Can you talk about what it's like to work with him as a performer?
It was amazing. I learned so much from him. From really little things, like if you're smoking a cigarette on set, you should have it only half so you don't smoke too much, to like bigger acting notes. He's so great. I think he's a fantastic director, and I can't wait to see the film, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. He's great.
What are you most proud of, with a little bit of distance from Lady Macbeth now? What are you most excited about when you look back on that unique piece of cinema?
Proud of the size and the unique story and the ability to stick to our guns. I'm proud of not really caring too much about what the outside world thinks, but actually continue to tell the story that we want to tell, and that's really hard, I think, in cinema anyway, let alone independent cinema. So yeah, I'm proud of her getting this far, and I'm proud of everybody in every single department being praised for the work they did, because it was an utterly mental shoot, and everybody was working into the early hours of the morning and then waking up 2 hours later and doing it all again. And that's like, to have that passion running through your film, you would hope that they would be celebrated, and it's really wonderful to be here with the majority of our gang celebrating it.
Looking to the future, I know you've got a couple of very interesting and slightly varied projects coming up. Can you tell us quickly about those?
So next year, Fighting With My Family will hopefully, well, yeah, it will be coming out, but I did a film about Paige, WWE superstar wrestler, basically, and we're just telling her story from rags to riches, and it was utterly bizarre, amazing experience doing that, and that will be coming out next year. And then I've got a couple of others coming out soon, which I can't quite remember how well they went, because I was just so pent up on caffeine and sheer anxiety that I was embarrassing myself. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they're all right.
I'd say they're the best film awards that we have in the UK. They're all about nurturing new talent and putting a spotlight, or giving a spotlight to that new talent, both filmmakers, actors. It's where the films and all these people that have made these films have made it out of pure passion. There's no money involved, there's very little money involved, and they're just trying to cobble together these stories that they really care about. So it's amazing. It's where you find the new talent, and it's all full of people that love what they do and will do anything to get something made. So it's the core of what British film is about. There's a real I don't think it's a resurgence, but it's definitely an exciting time, and it feels like we've got, tonight in the best film category, we've got some amazing talents. Like, really, they're going to go on and make so many great movies, and that's really exciting. And like you say, they're diverse. Their stories are so varied and different. The way they're told is so different. It's really exciting. We've got some fresh blood on the scene, and it's like re-energizing the industry.
Talk about Dark River and what it was that most resonated with you when you read that script, because it's a wonderful piece of cinema.
Yes, look, it's now become even more resonant these days because of what's going on with sexual abuse, so it's become something that is even more important to see, actually, and to express. When I read it, I was moved by the poeticism of it. I was moved by the relationships between the siblings. You don't see that on screen very often. And I also wanted to work with Clio. She's a phenomenal director, and she works with such compassion and such heart. She's a true lover of human beings, and it was a huge privilege working with her.
Obviously it's rare, sadly, for us to be talking about female directors. Can you talk a little bit about how the industry is rising to meet the very obvious challenges that still exist, particularly with gender bias behind the camera?
Yeah, from my own experience, it's changing, and I'm seeing a lot of change. I've worked with a lot of female DPs, directors, some camera operators. It's slow, but it's changing, and I think the whole world is changing, actually. So I'm hoping that women are finding more of a voice. They're standing up. They're asking for more things, demanding more space, demanding to be seen and to be heard, and that will change things, I hope.